The night air over the barren plateau of Göbekli Tepe is unnervingly still, as if the very stones themselves are holding their breath. What secret lies beneath those silent pillars, carved with beasts that stare across millennia, and why would a people who had not yet mastered agriculture invest so much labor into a place that was never meant to be a settlement? The first clues emerged in the 1960s when a local farmer uncovered a limestone slab while plowing his field. But it wasn't until German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt began to dig in 1994 that the true scale of the site was revealed. 12 concentric circles of massive T-shaped monoliths, each weighing up to 20 tons, rise from the earth, their surfaces etched with foxes, vultures, and enigmatic hybrid creatures whose meanings remain contested. Radiocarbon dating pushes the construction back to around 9,600 BCE, predating Stonehenge by 5,000 years. Yet the enigma deepens. No evidence of permanent habitation, no refuse pits, no signs of daily life. Only meticulously arranged stone circles that were deliberately buried around 8,000 BCE, as if the builders wanted to hide them from the world. Some scholars argue the site was a monumental temple, a place where early humans gathered to observe celestial events, pointing to the alignment of certain pillars with the rising of the summer solstice sun. Others suggest a more shamanistic purpose, a landscape where myth and reality merged, and the animal reliefs served as portals to a spiritual realm. What lies beneath the surface is just as puzzling as what rises above it. Subsoil scans have detected a network of underground chambers and pits, possibly used for ritual deposits of animal bones, ochre, and even human remains, though the exact function remains speculative. One theory proposes that these voids were designed to amplify sound, turning chants into resonant vibrations that could travel through the stone, an acoustic cathedral of pre-agricultural faith. Another, more controversial idea hints at an astronomical archive. Layers of sediment could hold a record of ancient sky observations, a proto-calendar hidden in the earth. The mystery is compounded by the fact that the people who built Göbekli Tepe left no written record. All we have are the symbols they chiseled into stone, the patterns of their architecture, and the whispers of a world on the brink of a revolution, when humans were still hunters, yet already reaching for the divine. As the wind brushes over the weathered pillars, it seems to carry a question older than any language. Why did our ancestors, without cities or metal tools, create a monument of such grandeur, only to conceal it beneath the earth? The answer remains buried, waiting for the next generation of seekers to listen to the silent stones and perhaps hear the echo of an ancient secret still reverberating beneath Göbekli Tepe. What lies sealed behind a stone door that no hammer, no torch, no modern spectrometer could breach? Deep in the windswept plateau of the Altai Mountains, a monolith of granite rises like a silent sentinel, its surface etched with symbols that have never been matched to any known script. For centuries, locals whispered of a sealed tomb that devours any attempt to pry it open, and in 1912, a team of Russian explorers finally located the entrance, only to find that every tool they brought back to the surface emerged broken, dulled, or inexplicably vanished. The doorway itself is a perfect rectangle, 15 meters tall, its lintel carved from a single slab of black basalt that seems to drink the light. Around it, the ground is scarred with deep, concentric grooves, as if some enormous force had dragged a massive implement around the perimeter. When the first archaeologists hammered at the basalt, the sound was muffled, as if the stone absorbed the vibration. Their chisels snapped cleanly, their dynamite charges failed to produce more than a faint tremor that rattled nearby cairns but left the slab untouched. Later, in the 1970s, a Soviet geological survey equipped with diamond-drilled augers attempted to bore through the basalt. After only a few centimeters, the drill bit heated beyond any known limit, emitting a hiss that sounded like a low, mournful wail. The crew withdrew, convinced that the stone was somehow alive or perhaps protected by a force beyond their comprehension. What adds an even darker layer to the mystery are the markings. They consist of interlocking spirals and a series of dots that, when plotted, form a pattern reminiscent of a star map, yet the constellations do not align with any known epoch. Some scholars argue that the symbols could be a calendrical system, while others suggest they are a warning, an ancient lock encoded in stone. Recent satellite imagery has revealed that the tomb sits precisely on a geomagnetic anomaly, a spot where the Earth's magnetic field fluctuates erratically. Instruments left at the site for weeks recorded compass needles spinning wildly, and even a modern GPS unit failed to lock onto a stable coordinate. It is as if the very fabric of reality is warped around the monolith, refusing to be measured. No one has ever entered the chamber. Inside, rumors speak of a vaulted space lined with obsidian walls that reflect no light, a throne of bone and gold, and a sarcophagus bearing a figure whose silhouette defies human anatomy. Yet these accounts come only from whispered tales passed down by the few who dared approach the site and felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if an unseen presence was watching, waiting. So the question remains: is the unopened tomb a relic of an unknown civilization that mastered a technology now lost, or is it a natural formation that the human mind has mythologized into a portal of terror? The stone still stands, unyielding, a dark riddle that mocks the very tools we trust. And somewhere, deep within its sealed heart, whatever lies inside continues to keep its secrets, silently, eternally. What if a map, carved from bronze over 4,000 years ago, points to a place that never existed, at least not on any modern chart? The tiny, intricately etched slab discovered among the ruins of a Bronze Age settlement in western Anatolia has haunted scholars ever since it emerged from the earth in 1998. At first glance, it looks like any other ceremonial bronze plaque. A square of hammered copper alloy, about 12 centimeters on each side, its surface darkened by centuries of burial. Yet, when the patina was carefully removed, a network of lines and symbols appeared, forming a map unlike anything known from that era. The cartographic features are startlingly precise. A river snakes across the center, its bends matching the modern course of the Gediz River, but the river is shown flowing eastward, opposite to reality. A cluster of dots marks a settlement, labeled with a series of glyph-like characters that have no parallel in known Anatolian scripts. Beyond that, a series of concentric circles, some scholars interpret as a mountain range, others as a ceremonial arena, lie at coordinates that, when plotted on today's satellite imagery, fall into a barren, featureless plain in the heart of the Anatolian plateau. Archaeologists have attempted to locate the city, indicated by the bronze map. Excavations at the nearest plausible site, near modern-day Kütahya, yielded only Roman-era pottery, nothing that could be linked to a Bronze Age urban center. Some propose that the map is a mythic representation, a spiritual landscape rather than a geographic one, akin to the otherworld maps found in Celtic lore. Yet the level of detail, river bends, a distinct hill silhouette, even a road network, suggests a knowledge of real terrain. One daring hypothesis came from a team of geologists who noted an ancient lake bed, now completely silted, beneath the plain identified by the map. Radiocarbon dating of organic layers placed the lake's disappearance around 1700 BCE, roughly the same period the bronze slab is believed to have been created. If a thriving settlement once skirted that lake, its ruins could be buried under meters of alluvial deposits, invisible to conventional surface surveys. Another, more unsettling theory points to intentional deception. Some researchers argue that the map could be a political artifact, a way for a rival chieftain to claim ownership over a contested territory by inscribing a fabricated cartographic claim. The bronze, after all, was a valuable medium, often used for diplomatic gifts and propaganda. Despite the myriad theories, the location remains a phantom. Modern LiDAR scans over the suspected area have revealed no anomalies, and ground-penetrating radar returns only homogeneous soil layers. The bronze map sits in a glass case in the Izmir Archaeological Museum, its lines still whispering of a place that may have vanished beneath time or never existed at all. As we stare at those ancient etchings, the question lingers like a cold wind across a forgotten valley. Did the Bronze Age peoples truly chart a real land, now forever lost, or were they drawing the borders of imagination, forever beyond our reach? The trees of Aokigahara have stood for centuries, their roots tangled like the thoughts of the lost souls that wander beneath their shade. Why do hikers swear they hear faint murmurs rising from the forest floor, as if the earth itself is trying to speak? Some locals call it the Whispering Forest, a name that hints at an ancient pact between the living and the dead, but the truth is far stranger than any legend. Aokigahara lies at the foot of Mount Fuji, a dense sea of cypress and fir that absorbs every sound. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a crow. Yet in the early hours of dawn, when mist curls through the trunks like ghostly fingers, visitors report hearing soft, unintelligible voices, sometimes a single word, sometimes a chorus of sighs. The phenomenon has been documented by researchers who set up audio recorders in several clearings. When the recordings are played back, the faintest whispers emerge, layered with a low, resonant hum that seems to emanate from the soil itself. One theory suggests that the forest's unique geology creates a natural acoustic chamber. The volcanic ash beneath the roots is highly porous, allowing vibrations to travel upward and be amplified by the dense canopy. When wind passes through the canopy, it can set the ground into a subtle resonance, producing a low-frequency sound that the human ear interprets as a voice. Some scientists compare it to the singing sand found in deserts, where sand grains vibrate under pressure. Another, more unsettling hypothesis points to the forest's grim history. Aokigahara has long been a place of ritual suicide, a quiet sanctuary for those seeking an end beyond the eyes of society. Over the decades, countless bodies have been laid to rest beneath the roots, their decomposing remains releasing gases that can create minute tremors in the soil. Those tremors, combined with the forest's acoustic properties, might generate the eerie whispers that are now woven into its myth. Folklore adds another layer. The ancient Japanese concept of yurei, restless spirits unable to find peace, holds that they linger where death is sudden and violent. In Aokigahara, the sheer number of such deaths could have formed a collective echo, a phantom memory that the forest retains. The whispers, then, are not mere physics, but a cultural imprint, a reminder that the ground remembers the souls it has claimed. Whatever the cause, the effect is chilling. Travelers who pause to listen often describe an overwhelming sensation of being watched, a pressure on the chest as if the forest itself is inhaling. Some swear they have heard their own names spoken in the wind, a personal invitation that cannot be ignored. The forest does not reveal its secrets easily. It only offers fragments, half-heard syllables that fade as quickly as they appear. And so the whispering forest remains a place where nature, history, and belief converge. The ground beneath your feet may be speaking, but whether it is the echo of volcanic ash, the sighs of those long gone, or simply the mind playing tricks in the silence, we may never know. Yet when the mist settles and the world grows still, the voices linger, soft, relentless, waiting for the next curious soul to listen. The night sky over the Siberian taiga was a familiar blanket of cold, unblinking stars, until a single, blinding flash ripped through it, turning night into day for a fleeting heartbeat. What caused that searing fireball to appear over the remote wilderness of Tunguska in 1908? The answer remains a riddle that haunts scientists and storytellers alike. At 7:14 a.m. on June 30th, local Evenki hunters reported a brilliant flash that seemed to emanate from the heavens, followed by a deafening roar that shook the very earth. Within seconds, a wave of heat surged across the forest, igniting trees and scorching the underbrush. When the shockwave finally arrived, an invisible wall of pressure, it toppled more than 2,000 square kilometers of pristine woodland, flattening them like paper. Hundreds of eyewitnesses described the sky as a river of fire, and the ground itself was left with a faint, sweet smell of ozone that lingered for days. Scientists who later examined the site found no impact crater, no shards of meteorite, nothing that could be easily identified as a conventional explosion. Instead, the area was marked by a circular pattern of devastation, with trees standing upright at the edges, their trunks scorched and fused as if by an immense, invisible hand. Some researchers argue that a stony asteroid or comet fragment detonated at an altitude of 5 to 10 kilometers. Its kinetic energy released in an airburst that rivaled a 10-megaton nuclear device. Others point to the presence of microscopic spherules, tiny glassy beads formed under extreme temperatures, suggesting a cosmic origin, yet the lack of a solid fragment fuels endless speculation. Theories swirl like the cold Siberian wind. Could it have been a fragment of a comet's icy nucleus, vaporizing before reaching the ground? Some propose a rare type of meteoritic event known as a superbolide, an explosion so powerful that it leaves no crater but flattens everything beneath its shockwave. A handful of fringe voices even whisper about a secret weapon or a portal to another dimension, but those ideas remain firmly in the realm of myth. What truly happened over the Tunguska forest that summer day? The evidence is tantalizing but incomplete. A sky turned to fire, a silent, scarred landscape, and a lingering question that refuses to be answered. As the wind still carries the faint scent of burnt pine across the Siberian expanse, the mystery endures, reminding us that the universe can still unleash forces beyond our comprehension, leaving us to stare at the night sky and wonder what else lies hidden in the darkness. Deep in the tangled heart of Brazil's Amazon, where the canopy swallows the sky and the river whispers ancient secrets, there lies a legend that has haunted explorers for a century. The lost city of Z, its name spoken in hushed reverence by the few who claim to have felt its presence, promises a civilization that flourished long before the Portuguese ever set foot on this green abyss. What was Z, and why does its very existence feel like a phantom drifting between myth and reality? The story begins with Colonel Percy Fawcett, a British officer whose obsessive maps and fevered journal entries spoke of a sophisticated society hidden beneath the Emerald Veil. He described towering stone structures, perfectly cut basalt blocks, and a complex network of causeways that defied the primitive tools he believed the local tribes possessed. Yet, when modern satellite imagery sweeps over the region, it reveals only tangled rivers, flooded valleys, and the occasional glimpse of a geometric outline, an echo of something once built, now reclaimed by nature. Archaeologists who have followed Fawcett's breadcrumbs report startling anomalies. In the Xingu Basin, they uncovered a series of monolithic pillars aligned with the solstices, their surfaces etched with a script unlike any known Amazonian glyph. Carbon dating suggests these stones are at least 500 years old, predating the Inca expansion, and their craftsmanship rivals that of distant Mesoamerican sites. Some researchers argue the pillars could belong to a lost trade network, a forgotten empire that linked the Andes with the lowland forests, trading obsidian for exotic feathers. Yet the most perplexing evidence lies not in stone, but in the soil. Deep within a remote trench, scientists detected a layer of compacted earth containing tiny, perfectly formed glass beads, tiny spheres that form only under intense heat, as if a firestorm once roared through the jungle. No natural volcanic activity exists in that part of the Amazon, and no known human culture in the region possessed the technology to produce such beads. One hypothesis suggests a sudden, cataclysmic event, perhaps a massive meteor strike or a rapid, localized flood, could have buried the city in an instant, preserving its outlines while erasing the memory of its people. Local folklore adds another layer of darkness. The indigenous Yanomami speak of the city of the white stone, a place where the sun never set and the walls sang with the wind. Their stories describe a sudden silence that fell over the city, as if an unseen hand had pulled the breath from its inhabitants, leaving only echoing halls and abandoned plazas. Some scholars interpret this as a cultural memory of a devastating disease, perhaps a virulent hemorrhagic fever that swept through an isolated population, leaving no survivors to pass on their knowledge. Even today, expeditions equipped with LiDAR, laser pulses that pierce the foliage, reveal a startling pattern of geometric clearings, reminiscent of streets and plazas hidden beneath the canopy. The data is tantalizing, but the ground truth remains stubbornly out of reach. Researchers who have set foot on these sites report an unsettling feeling, as though the very air is thick with an unspoken warning, a reminder that some mysteries are guarded by the forest itself. So the question lingers, as dark and impenetrable as the jungle night. Did the builders of Z simply vanish, erased by a sudden catastrophe, or did they retreat into the depths of the forest, becoming the ancestors of tribes that now guard their stories? The stone pillars still stand, the glass beads still glitter in the mud, and the Amazon continues to hide its secrets, waiting for the next brave soul willing to listen to the silent call of the lost city of Z. Deep beneath the jagged cliffs of the Andean foothills, a narrow shaft of limestone opens like a silent mouth, swallowing the thin mountain air. In 2014, a small team of speleologists from Lima, armed with only headlamps and a notebook, slipped into this darkness, hoping to map the labyrinthine tunnels that locals whispered about for generations. What they found was not a simple stalactite formation or a hidden spring, but a fragment that would send shivers through both scientists and myth keepers alike. A single, elongated bone, curved and polished by time, bearing an unmistakable serpentine ridge that resembled the legendary basilisk described in pre-colonial Andean lore. The bone measured roughly 30 centimeters, its surface etched with faint, irregular striations that suggested it had been gnawed upon by a creature with a beak-like jaw. When the team lifted it into the weak beam of their lamps, the mineral matrix around the fragment glittered with tiny quartz crystals, highlighting a pattern of pores that, under a portable microscope, revealed a structure unlike any known reptile or amphibian vertebra. Its curvature was too extreme for a typical lizard, yet too robust for a fish. Some paleontologists have tentatively classified it as a dinosaurian gastralia, a rib-like element, but the lack of accompanying skeletal parts leaves the identification hanging in the void. Local Quechua elders, consulted after the discovery, recalled stories of the machucunter, a giant serpent-bird hybrid said to guard the mountain passes and to turn any intruder to stone with a single glance. The description of the creature's coiled body matches the bone's sinuous shape, feeding a centuries-old narrative that the Andes are alive with hidden guardians. Yet the scientific community remains cautious. Radiocarbon dating of the surrounding sediment places the bone at approximately 12,000 years old, a period that predates the known rise of complex societies in the region and sits at the tail end of the last ice age. No other fossils of comparable morphology have emerged from nearby sites, and the isolated find could be an anomaly, a misidentified fragment of an extinct marine reptile washed inland by ancient floods. Still, the bone's very existence raises a cascade of unsettling questions. Did an unknown lineage of large, possibly semi-aquatic reptiles roam the high Andes, surviving far beyond the conventional extinction timeline? Or was the fragment a relic of a now-lost culture that fashioned bone like talismans from mineral deposits, embedding myth into material form? Some researchers propose that the basilisk bone could be a natural mineral formation, a concretion that merely mimics organic structure, a case of pareidolia amplified by the weight of legend. As night falls over the cave entrance, the wind whistles through the shaft, echoing the faint drip of water onto stone. The bone rests in a sealed jar back at the university, its polished surface catching the fluorescent light, a silent reminder that the earth still holds secrets that defy our classifications. Whether it is the fossil of an extinct beast, a ritual artifact, or a geological curiosity, the enigmatic basilisk bone continues to haunt the imagination, leaving us to wonder what other unseen monsters lie waiting in the dark veins of the mountains, their stories etched in stone, waiting for the day when someone dares to uncover them. What if a creature of nightmare slithered beneath the endless dunes of the Gobi, capable of killing a camel with a single electric shock, and yet no photograph, no skeleton, no verified eyewitness has ever been produced? This is the story of the Mongolian deathworm, a legend that has haunted nomads, scientists, and explorers for more than a century. The first recorded mention dates back to 1926, when British explorer Roy Chapman Goddard, traveling with a small caravan of Mongolian herders, was told of a large, fat, red worm that emerged after the summer rains. According to the herders, the creature could strike from beneath the sand, delivering a lethal electric discharge that left its victims convulsed, their blood boiling within seconds. Some accounts even claim it could spit a corrosive venom that ate through metal. The locals called it *algoi korkoi*, the large worm, and warned children never to wander alone after dark, for the worm would sense the heat of a living body and strike without warning. Over the decades, a handful of daring adventurers have attempted to prove the worm's existence. In the 1970s, a team led by Dr. Roy H. Miller spent 3 weeks in the remote valleys of the Gobi, setting up motion-sensitive cameras and laying out live goats as bait. The footage captured only shifting sand and the occasional desert fox. The cameras never recorded the flash of a lethal spark described in the legends. In 1996, a Russian-Mongolian expedition, equipped with infrared sensors, claimed to have detected an anomalous burst of energy at night, but the data was lost during transport, leaving only a whispered rumor among the scientific community. Skeptics point to the harsh environment of the Gobi, a place where temperatures swing from -40°C to +45°C, and where sandstorms can swallow entire villages, as fertile ground for folklore. They argue that the electric shock could be a misinterpretation of a sudden death caused by dehydration, heat stroke, or venomous snake bites, later embellished by the oral tradition. Yet, the consistency of the description, red, fat, burrowing, and capable of delivering a silent, invisible force, remains striking across generations and cultures, from Kazakh steppe tales to Siberian shamanic chants. Modern researchers have turned to biology for clues. The closest known analogues are the electric eels of the Amazon and the electric catfish of Africa, both capable of generating voltage to stun prey. However, none of these creatures live underground, nor can they survive the extreme aridity of the Gobi. Some herpetologists hypothesize a yet undiscovered species of burrowing amphibian that evolved a bioelectric organ as a defense against the relentless heat and predatory birds. Others suggest a cryptic species of large nematode, perhaps a parasite of desert rodents, that has been mythologized over time. Until a specimen is captured, the Mongolian deathworm remains a phantom stitched together from terrified testimonies, half-forgotten scrolls, and the unforgiving silence of the desert night. Whether it is a living monster, a misinterpreted natural hazard, or simply a cautionary tale to keep children from wandering too far, the legend endures, looming beneath the dunes, waiting for the next curious soul to ask, what truly lies beneath the sand? The answer, for now, stays buried with the worm itself, leaving us to wonder what other unseen horrors the world might still conceal. What secrets lie beneath the Inkai Veil of the Black Sea, where the water is so dark that even the sun seems reluctant to penetrate? Imagine a world where ancient stones whisper stories that have been muffled for millennia, a world where a forgotten sanctuary rests on the ocean floor, waiting for the right eyes to glimpse its carved columns and faded reliefs. This is the tale of the sunken temple that was uncovered in the depths of the Black Sea, a mystery that turns the very notion of time on its head. In the summer of 2022, a team of marine archaeologists from the University of Constanta set out on a routine survey of the continental shelf, employing multi-beam sonar to map the seafloor for potential fishing hazards. The equipment painted a strange silhouette on the digital render, a series of right angles and concentric circles, too regular to be a natural formation. At roughly 200 meters beneath the surface, the sonar revealed a rectangular platform, its edges still defined by what appeared to be massive stone blocks, each weighing several tons. The shape immediately reminded the researchers of a classical temple plan, a central cella flanked by colonnades, all aligned to the cardinal points. When the remotely operated vehicle descended, lights flickered over a landscape of eroded marble and limestone, still bearing traces of ancient carvings. Friezes depicting stylized marine creatures, octopuses, dolphins, and a strange hybrid being with a lion's head were barely discernible beneath layers of silt. In the central chamber, a massive stone altar stood, its surface scored with concentric grooves that some suggest could have been used for ritual libations. The altar's orientation aligns precisely with the rising sun on the summer solstice, a fact that has sparked heated debate among scholars. The construction technique is equally baffling. The stones were joined without mortar, using a sophisticated system of interlocking joints that echo the precision of Greek Doric architecture, yet differ in material choice, suggesting a blend of Hellenistic and indigenous Black Sea cultures. Radiocarbon dating of organic residues trapped in the mortar-free joints points to a window between the 5th and 3rd centuries BCE, a period when Greek colonies flourished along the coast, but no written records mention any inland sanctuary that could have been abandoned to the sea. Why would a community deliberately submerge their most sacred place? One theory, proposed by Dr. Elena Petrov, suggests a catastrophic seismic event, perhaps the infamous 4th century earthquake that devastated the ancient city of Olbia, triggered a rapid land subsidence, swallowing the temple whole. Yet the surrounding seabed shows no evidence of a massive landslide, and the temple sits on a stable plateau of ancient limestone, as if it were placed there intentionally. Another hypothesis points to a ritualistic, sacred drowning, a practice recorded in mythic texts from the region, where priests would consign a temple to the depths to honor a sea deity during periods of famine. The mystery deepens with the discovery of a stone slab inscribed with an unknown script, resembling neither Linear B nor the early alphabet of the Scythians. The symbols form a repeating pattern, perhaps a prayer or a calendar, but without a Rosetta Stone, its meaning remains locked away. Researchers have begun 3D scanning the slab, hoping that subtle wear patterns might reveal the direction of the strokes, a clue that could finally crack the code. As the ROV ascended, the darkness closed over the ruined sanctuary once more, leaving behind a lingering echo of chants that may have been spoken there centuries ago. The Black Sea, with its mysterious anoxic layers that preserve organic material for millennia, has given us a glimpse into a world that history thought it had erased. Yet the answers remain elusive, and the temple continues to guard its own riddles, waiting for the next generation of explorers to pull back the veil of the deep and ask the ultimate question. What drove a people to lay their gods to rest beneath the waves? What if the most infamous book that has baffled scholars for a century suddenly turned a page that no one expected? Deep within the vaulted vaults of the Beinek Rare Book and Manuscript Library, a fresh leaf has emerged from the tangled vellum of the Voynich manuscript, and its strange symbols whisper a question that has haunted linguists, cryptographers, and occultists alike. Could the cipher finally be breaking, or is it merely another layer of the mystery? The Voynich, bound in a thick, weather-worn leather cover, has long been a labyrinth of unknown flora, bizarre astronomical diagrams, and streams of text that defy any known alphabet. For decades, the 240-plus pages have been examined under microscopes, X-ray fluorescence, and even infrared spectrometry, yet the script remained stubbornly opaque. Then, in the spring of 2025, conservators uncovered a narrow strip of vellum tucked between folios 162 and 163, a fragment that had been hidden for over 100 years, perhaps deliberately folded away by a careless scribe. At first glance, the new page seems to follow the familiar rhythm of the manuscript. Elegant, looping characters, each about the size of a grain of sand, arranged in tight rows that curve like vines. But the ink composition is different, a deep, almost black iron gall mixture that reacts strangely to ultraviolet light, revealing faint, ghostly markings beneath the surface. When the page is illuminated at a 45-degree angle, a series of faint watermarks appear, resembling a lattice of interlocking triangles, a pattern never seen elsewhere in the codex. Experts are divided. Some linguists, like Dr. Elaine Harrow of Cambridge, argue that the triangular watermark matches a known medieval alchemical symbol, suggesting the page could be a marginal note rather than core text. Others, such as cryptographer Miguel Alvarez, point out that the character frequency on this leaf deviates dramatically from the rest of the manuscript, hinting at a possible cipher key hidden within the geometry of the watermarks themselves. One theory even proposes that the page is a decoder sheet, a guide the original author left for a future reader, encoded in the very layout of the page. The most chilling detail, however, is the illustration that occupies the lower right corner. It is a drawing of a strange, elongated plant whose leaves curl like the script above them, but the stem terminates in a single, perfect sphere that seems to pulse with a faint, metallic sheen. No other botanical illustration in the Voynich bears such a form, and the sphere's surface bears an uncanny resemblance to the pattern of the watermarks, as if the artist tried to render the invisible code in pigment. As the scholarly community scrambles to digitize, translate, and model the page, a palpable tension fills the reading rooms. If the watermark lattice truly encodes a numeric key, it could unlock the first coherent passage ever extracted from the Voynich's endless sea of gibberish. Yet, every breakthrough in the past has been followed by a deeper enigma, and the new page may simply add another cryptic layer to an already impenetrable puzzle. So the question lingers, hanging in the stale, vellum-scented air. Does this newly discovered leaf bring us one step closer to unmasking the mind behind the manuscript, or does it merely deepen the darkness that has cloaked the Voynich for 8 centuries? The answer remains locked within those looping glyphs, waiting for the next mind daring enough to listen to their silent song. What if a simple piece of glass could swallow a soul, leaving nothing but an empty frame and a lingering chill in the air? In the remote village of St. Nicholas, tucked between the mist-shrouded Carpathian foothills, an ancient mirror has haunted the locals for centuries. Crafted from an alloy of unknown metal and a slab of glass so clear it seemed to absorb the surrounding light, the object was first recorded in a 16th-century parish ledger as a gift from a traveling monk who claimed it was forged in the fires of a fallen star. The monk warned that the mirror would show not the viewer's reflection, but the emptiness that lay behind them. He vanished that very night, and the glass was placed on the altar, where it remained untouched for generations. The first documented incident occurred in 1742 when the parish priest, Father Ione, ordered the mirror to be cleaned. As the cloth brushed the surface, the candle light flickered, and the priest's own visage dissolved into a void. When the townsfolk rushed to his side, they found only a trembling silhouette of the wooden cross he clutched, his eyes wide with terror, but his face, his very identity, was gone. He survived, but every night he dreamed of standing before a black lake where his reflection sank like a stone. He died 3 months later, his last words a whispered, "It does not belong to us." Over the following decades, the mirror changed hands in ways that defy logic. During the 1809 Austro-Hungarian census, a traveler named Matthias reported that the mirror had been taken from the church by a band of mercenaries. Yet the next entry in the ledger, written by a different priest, described the mirror as having returned, as if carried on the wind. Its frame polished anew, though no one could account for its journey. Some scholars suggest the glass may have been forged from meteoritic iron, pointing to the monk's mention of a fallen star, while others argue it is a relic of a forgotten pagan rite, a portal meant to trap the essence of anyone who gazes too deeply. The most unsettling testimony comes from 1923, when a French ethnographer, Henri Laffitte, spent a winter in St. Nicholas to study the village's folk customs. He set up a camera to record the mirror at midnight, hoping to capture any supernatural activity. The footage, now stored in a cracked archive, shows the glass reflecting only the darkness of the room, no candle flame, no shadow of the camera itself, while a faint, rhythmic thumping echoes from the opposite wall. When Laffitte reviewed the film, he found a single frame where a pale, featureless outline seemed to glide across the surface, vanishing the moment the film looped. He left the village the next day, never speaking of what he saw, and his notes end abruptly with the word silence. Today the mirror hangs in the basement of the abandoned St. Nicholas Chapel, shielded by rusted iron bars and a layer of dust that has never been disturbed. Locals who dare approach speak of a cold that seeps into their bones, of a feeling that something watches them from within the glass, even when they stand far away. Some claim that on stormy nights the mirror emits a low, mournful hum, as if the trapped reflections are trying to break free. No scientific analysis has ever been permitted. The church authorities have sealed the site, citing preservation of heritage. Yet the legend persists, whispered in taverns and carried by the wind across the Carpathians. Is the mirror merely a relic of superstition, a psychological echo of centuries of fear? Or does it conceal a deeper, perhaps cosmic, secret, a fragment of a world where mirrors do not reflect, but consume? The answer remains hidden behind an unyielding pain, waiting for the next brave soul to gaze into the void and perhaps vanish forever. The ice stretched out like a frozen cathedral, its vaulted arches echoing with the sighs of centuries-old winds. In the winter of 1928, a small British expedition set out to chart the unclaimed reaches of Ellesmere Island, a place where the sun never rose and the darkness seemed to swallow sound itself. Their goal was simple on paper: map the coastline, collect geological samples, and plant the Union Jack on a ridge that had never felt a human foot. Yet as the crew, Captain James Whittaker, Surveyor Thomas Hale, and 2 Inuit guides, pressed deeper into the Arctic night, the landscape began to whisper secrets that no map could contain. The first omen arrived in the form of a massive, perfectly circular ice formation, 20 meters across, its surface unmarred by wind-scoured ridges. Local legends called such features the Eye of the North, believing they were portals to a world beneath the ice. Whittaker noted the phenomenon in his journal, describing a low hum that seemed to emanate from the frozen disk, a sound he could not attribute to the usual creaking of glaciers. 2 days later, the party stumbled upon a set of stone pillars, half buried in permafrost, arranged in a precise triangular pattern. The stones bore petroglyphs unlike any known Inuit art, stylized spirals intersecting with what appeared to be crude representations of celestial bodies. One of the guides, Akalu, fell silent, his eyes darting to the horizon as if recalling a warning passed down through generations. He muttered a word that the others could not translate, then turned and fled, disappearing into a blizzard that seemed to materialize out of thin air. The storm that followed was unlike any recorded in meteorological logs. Wind gusts rose to over 200 kilometers per hour, and the temperature plunged to minus 45 degrees Celsius in a matter of minutes. The crew's tents were ripped from their anchors, their supplies scattered across a landscape that turned into a living white abyss. When the storm finally abated, the men regrouped at the site of the pillars, only to discover that their compass needles spun wildly, refusing to point north. Their maps were rendered useless, the once familiar stars above now a chaotic smear of light. On the third night, an eerie aurora painted the sky with blood-red ribbons. Whittaker, exhausted and shivering, recorded in his journal a strange feeling of being watched. He described a faint, rhythmic thumping that resonated through the ice, like the heartbeat of something massive beneath the surface. The next morning, the crew found their footprints leading straight into a yawning crevasse that had not been there the night before. The ice around it was smooth, as if polished by an unseen hand. When a rescue party finally reached the area months later, they found only the abandoned camp, the stone pillars still standing, and a scattering of personal effects. A cracked compass, a half-filled thermos, and Whittaker's journal, its final pages smeared with a dark, oily substance that no one could identify. No bodies were recovered, no trace of the men remained beyond the whispers of the wind. Some researchers propose that the Eye of the North may be a natural gas vent that once released methane, creating a temporary, invisible cavern beneath the ice. Others argue that the pillars mark an ancient, forgotten settlement, and that the expedition unwittingly trespassed on sacred ground, invoking forces the Inuit have long respected. The truth of what happened to the Ellesmere crew remains locked within the frozen silence of the Arctic. The last line of Whitaker's journal reads, "If anyone finds this, know that the ice holds more than water. It holds a memory that will not let us go." Even today, as modern satellites scan the region, that memory lingers, a cold reminder that some mysteries are buried deeper than any map can ever reveal. The wind that sweeps through the broken arches of the Stone City carries a scent unlike any other, dry earth tinged with the metallic whisper of something ancient, as if the very rocks remember a language long lost. Scholars have called this place the White Hills Settlement, a sprawling complex of basalt towers and terraces that emerged from the desert of western Turkestan just a few decades ago, when a nomadic tribe uncovered a half-buried plaza beneath a sandstorm. From the moment the first block was lifted, the air seemed to thicken, and a low hum resonated from the stone, audible only when the sun slipped behind the dunes. Archaeologists quickly realized that the architecture did not belong to any known culture. The walls are etched with a series of interlocking spirals and concentric circles, each pattern repeating with a precision that rivals modern engineering, yet the tools used remain a mystery. No wheel marks, no evidence of metal, only a fine, sand-colored mortar that hardens instantly when exposed to the desert heat. Inside one of the chambers, a pool of water, still and perfectly clear, reflects the stars even in daylight, a phenomenon that defies the region's scorching climate. The most unsettling find, however, is the series of stone tablets inscribed with a script unlike any known alphabet. The symbols form a looping cadence, and when researchers attempt to decode them, a subtle vibration runs through the room, as though the stones themselves are speaking. Some believe the script records a warning, a ritual to keep something sealed. Others suggest it is a calendar counting down to an unknown event. Local legends speak of the Silent Watchers, shadowy silhouettes that appear at dusk, gliding along the terraces without leaving footprints. Photographers who have captured the site report fleeting, elongated shapes in the periphery of their lenses, disappearing the moment they turn to look. No cameras have ever recorded a clear image, only a faint distortion, like heat ripples over water. What remains most chilling is the nightly chorus that rises from the depths of the ruin, a low, resonant tone that seems to emanate from the very foundation, growing louder as the moon climbs. Researchers who have camped there speak of sleeplessness, of dreams populated by endless corridors and eyes that watch from the darkness. The ruins have become a magnet for those who seek answers, yet each expedition leaves with more questions than before. So the White Hills Settlement stands, half buried in sand, half alive in myth, a silent testament to a civilization that vanished without a trace. Its stone walls still echo with an unknown purpose, its mysteries still pulse beneath the desert night, waiting, perhaps, for someone to finally hear what the ruins are trying to tell us.